Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja. The arrival of the Yuan Wang 5 ship at the Hambantota port becomes a cause of worry for India. What is the ship doing over there? Why has it arrived? What is the reason to be worried? Everything will be discussed. So these are the many topics that we will touch upon, and the news piece has been taken from the Hindu, but we have enriched the segment from different materials as well, so that you can get selected. Because if you're going to write more important information and less about the same thing over and over again, your mains answer writing will become very good. So what is the news? On August 13th, Sri Lanka approved the arrival of a Chinese satellite tracking vessel to its Chinese-funded Hambantota port. Now, the cause of worry is that it is being said this particular vessel has arrived for scientific research in the Northwest Indian Ocean. Whatever is happening in the Northwest Indian Ocean will be researched upon by this vessel. But the problem is that this vessel, Yuan Wang 5, is actually capable of many other things. It's dual purpose. It is used for dual purpose and for military purposes as well. So because Hambantota port, as we all know, is already Chinese funded, and Sri Lanka is in a debt trap of China, Sri Lanka's economic situation, political situation is really bad. Is the chaos in Sri Lanka proving to be beneficial for China? So we will discuss that only. Captain Alfred Thayer Mahan, that is a century ago, this particular statement, which was saying that seaports are one of the three pillars of sea power, like we have Hambantota port, Gwadar port. These are the one of the three pillars of sea power that Chinese Navy has acquired. So this particular person, Captain Thayer said this a century ago, and now it is being reinforced by the importance that China is giving to ports. So why? We have understood, because it can spy on the regions associated with Sri Lanka, near Sri Lanka. Secondly, its dual purpose fulfillment, the criteria of that also is a cause of concern, not only for India, but all the other countries as well. Moving on, as we see, Hambantota port lies over here, and it lies in the southwest region of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is one of India's neighbors, and we all know what debt trap policy China has given to not only Sri Lanka but also Pakistan. So debt trap policy, what is that? Debt trap. That means Hambantota port was developed by the help of China. China infused billions of dollars in Hambantota port, but when it comes to revenue generation to service the debt that Sri Lanka took, the loan that Sri Lanka took, it did not generate a lot of revenue. When you do not have the revenue generation from a particular project that you got loans for, you cannot service the debt. Now what happens? As a collateral, a power, a bully like China can take a hold of your port, saying that we developed this port. So this is one of the China's debt trap policy. Moving on, we talk about the Hambantota port. It is located 10 nautical miles from the global shipping route, and it is Sri Lanka's most diversified deep water multi-purpose port. So it can be used for many purposes. Also, the development of this particular port, as we see, has been done with the help of Hambantota International Port Group, which is a joint undertaking of the government of Sri Lanka and China's merchant port, holdings CM port. So as we know, this particular group is developing this port. The privatization of the Hambantota port has been done many years ago. That gives China a say in which ship can dock in that region and which can't. Of course, with the help by the validation of Sri Lankan government, of course, on the superficial level that has to be done. But we also know that what are the intentions of China behind docking this particular vessel at the Hambantota port. The focus will be given on new technologies and environmentally sustainable practices. The port has a great potential in energy services due to its location in the Indian Ocean region, because in this region 50% of the world's maritime trade takes place, and because of the LPG supplies and the future of LNG supplies, this port holds a great significance not only for Indian Ocean but around the world. So China's eye on this port, of course, came by certain understanding of the future trade, and it is geopolitically also very important for China. We will talk about that as well. Now this particular post is from few months back, in which it was said Colombo denies reports on Chinese ship. In July itself, the BRISL, Belt and Road Initiative, Sri Lanka, said that a vessel will come at the Hambantota port, will dock at the Hambantota port for replenishment. That was said by a tweet in July. And the Hindu in its tweet said, days after denying reports of scheduled arrival of a Chinese research vessel, Sri Lanka's Ministry of Defense on Saturday confirmed that the vessel had sought clearance to call at the southern Hambantota port in August. It was earlier said that it will come between 11 to 13, but now recently it came to the port, which of course made India very shocked, because earlier it was denying the reports of the vessel and now it accepted it in July itself. So that is the problem. Yuan Wang 5 basically was described by the Sri Lankan government as a scientific research ship. This was said that this vessel is of no concern to any country because it will do research. But the problem is it can also track and support satellite as well as intercontinental ballistic missiles. Right now, in the contemporary times, the world is volatile. Plus, Chinese invasion of Taiwan can happen in the upcoming decades. So, of course, China wants to ensure that it encircles the entire region of Taiwan and also India. So that becomes everybody has their own reservations about this Chinese vessel, but India has the most. Why? Because India is already at loggerheads with China at the LAC, specifically in the Arunachal Pradesh and Ladakh region. So that is a cause of concern. With the help of this particular tracking and supporting of satellite, this ship that can do, it can foil India's plans against Pakistan and against any other important enemy that India has. So how is the world reacting? We have to know. India, since the news came to the fore, India has made it clear that it is carefully monitoring developments and having a bearing on its security and economic interest. Also said that they were rejecting insinuations that Sri Lanka was pressured. It was earlier being said that Sri Lanka is being pressured by China to let them dock this ship at the Hambantota port. But India said that Sri Lanka is a sovereign country. We do not believe that Sri Lanka is being pressured, but India is carefully registering whatever developments are taking place. Whatever developments are taking place is important for India's concern, for India's security. Now, External Affairs Minister took it up with his Sri Lankan counterpart, Sabri, on the sidelines of the recent ASEAN summit which was conducted. Not only that, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also raised this issue with Mr. Sabri. So, if a country like US and India, they are raising concerns, of course, we all have our intelligence agencies. Until and unless there is a real cause of concern, no country will give the importance enough to discuss with important officials of any country. So that we have to understand. Another thing, Sri Lanka, what the US and India said, that's fine. But what does China say? What does China say is, Sri Lanka is a transportation hub in the Indian Ocean region. That means it is open for transportation. Any vessel can dock there. Scientific research vessels from various countries, including China, have made port calls in Sri Lanka for replenishment. That means to get fuel, food, or any other sort of supplies, repair as well. And China always exercises, this is what China is saying, always exercises freedom of the high seas that is in accordance with the law and fully respects coastal countries' jurisdiction for their own research and development programs. This particular has been said from how China is perceiving Sri Lanka superficially. It also said Sri Lanka is a sovereign country. That means China did not put any pressure on Sri Lanka to let it dock its ship, and it is completely unjustified for certain countries. Here you see no names have been taken like India or US, for certain countries to cite the so-called security concerns to pressure Sri Lanka. China is saying that by saying that there are security concerns related with the docking of the ship, in countries such as India and US are putting pressure on Sri Lanka to not let it dock the Chinese vessel. This is what Sri Lanka has said. This is what China has said. Now, what does Sri Lanka say? Sri Lanka said that yes, we did talk about this entire issue with the US and India as well. And they were also asked to provide what are the concrete reasons for their objections. Why are you objecting? This is just a scientific vessel ship. And when Sri Lankan officials were not satisfied with the reason, they were not satisfied with the reasons that were provided by India and the US because there was no evidence. So Sri Lanka, after consulting with various important administrative officials, said yes, okay, the Chinese vessel can dock here. Moving on. Now, you see that these are the many ports that spans from not only Southeast Asia, not only Indian Ocean, but near the Red Sea and so far to the European countries as well, where China either has the port acquirement to its full or China has major investment in these regions, and that becomes a cause of concern. Now, China's first ever overseas military base was established at the port of Djibouti. Where is Djibouti? Djibouti is over here. Djibouti lies at a very strategic location between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. In Africa, it had its first overseas military base, okay? And China's militarization of the port is actually the issue over here. Why to put military over there? Either you are planning something really clandestinely that you have to put your military over there, or you have certain other ambitions, okay? And China now owns 96 ports around the world. Now, if this is the reason, if militarization of the ports will occur, then it will be a huge cause of concern to not only India, but for the rest of the world. Because when you put, suppose your military or a vessel that is capable of spying without any soldier, without any military also, you can foil the plans of other countries. You can invest you can dedicate and invest your Chinese vessels enough so that any country, if it is trying to ensure that its borders are protected, that will also get foiled. Here I am talking about India and Pakistan border. Now, the another issue of port acquirement was with the Haifa port. The Haifa port is in Israel, and that was a bone of contention between the Israeli government and the US government, because here at the Haifa port, the 6th fleet of the US Navy docks. Now, we all know how the rivalry and enmity or the animosity of US and China is unraveling at the premise that China is about to invade Taiwan. Dr. 𝐈𝐀𝐒, who is the former Israeli intelligence officer, pointed out that the port can easily be used to collect naval intelligence. So this is the level of dedication that China is showing towards intelligence gathering. What does it mean for India? Security threat. We all know that Pakistan and China are iron brothers, creating complete nuisance for India in the northern region of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. So first, the problem is that. Second is trade threat. If China does this particular thing of ensuring that the pearl of strings break, that the string of pearls completely encircles the important ports around India, the trade will get hampered, because they are not going to, if they could, they would, but they are not going to stop the vessels like that only. They will try to hamper the trade by doing different things, different sorts of procedures, by which what happens? the trade gets delayed, and that will also be a problem. Immigration threats, because such debt trap policy and providing too much loan to countries such as Pakistan and Sri Lanka might create a problem of refugees. They might, because of the political situation in such countries, they might tend to move towards the nearest country that India is located at this geostrategic location. Whenever immigration of this sort happens, they move towards India. That is also a problem. Moving on, what is the way forward? Now, India has signed certain important, you can say, agreements with many countries, which gives it a logistic support. How? The mutual logistic support agreement, through this, which India has signed with many countries, that I will also tell you, it can facilitate reciprocal access to military logistic facilities. That means if a ship wants to get replenishment, food, fuel, repair, any sort of that will be provided, and that is reciprocal. If I can dock at your port, you can dock at our port, whatever the ports are listed in the agreement. Allows more complex joint military exercise that will give the countries that are involved in this exercise to get involved into disaster management, to deal with security threats and the rest. Also, it improves interoperability. That means operation between the important countries with which India has this agreement, operation when it comes to disaster management, security threat, that will also increase. Military drills will increase. So this particular agreement is there. And India has signed this with countries such as South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, also Australia, France, United States, and many more. Okay, so now let us look at our question for tomorrow. This is a prelims based question. With which of the following countries India has signed the mutual logistics support agreement? South Korea, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Australia, France. You have to answer this correctly, okay? Just give me a few moments to announce the names of those who have answered my last question correctly. If you haven't, you can move on. After answering this question, I will take your names in the next segment, okay? So yes, my last question was with respect to the segment, how was swastika hijacked by Hitler? The correct answer was Australia. Devraj has answered it correctly. Kranti has answered it correctly. Vikash, Tanu, Anasuya, Chirasmita, also Umar Gul, Abhay Mishra, Safrafail, Jayaprakash, Hemant, Sakshi, Anmol, Anuj, Anayas, Janvi, Namrata, also Satvik, Raghav, Khushi, Pallavi Jangir, Alok, sorry. Australia is the correct answer. Okay. Akash has answered it correctly. Satish, Shruti, Arunima, Arpita, Himanshu, Akriti, and Priyanshu has answered it correctly. Ashu has answered it correctly. Unknown 2.0 has answered it correctly. Madhusudan, Akashdeep, Vikram, Sandeep, Payal, also Aditya Birla. You all people have answered it correctly. To get your names announced, you can answer this question as well. Thank you so much for watching.